about Scouts BSA troops. My name is Aaron. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined today by Brent. Brent is the chairman of the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee. Brent, thank you for joining us today. Oh, Brent looks like he's muted. Brent, there's a mute button.
I'm unmuted.
Yep. Perfect. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Happy to have you today. Obviously, as you can tell, we're going to be talking about how Scouts BSA troops can serve Scouts with special needs. We've done a similar show focused on Cub Scouts in the past, but today we're going to kind of aim specifically on Scouts BSA troops. I think, Brent, to get us started, I think a lot of people might not know that there is a National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee. Just kind of tell us about that committee and what you guys do.
Okay. We have 25 members on the committee, and we're part of the National Program Development Committee. And so what we do is we serve to help all the other parts of the programs of Boy Scouts of America with working with special needs scouts, which are, according to surveys, about 12% of our scouts. So we also are there to assist the councils or units when they have issues with special, what they need to do. So we answer questions just directly from councils also. So
we were talking before we went live here, Brent, that the concept of serving kids with different abilities, with special needs, has been around, I think you said, since the founding of the BSA, right?
It has. It's one of the first things that they talked about in the leaders' guides. The earliest leaders' guides talk about how to deal with different type of scouts, and one of them that they talk about is actually describing an autistic scout, even though it precludes autism as a diagnosis. So.
Long before that word officially existed, I think, right? And as you said before, it even predates like the existence of Cub Scouts, right? We were talking about how to serve children with special needs. Stephanie in the comments has done something very interesting. I want to point out she has tagged one of her friends in the comments. Encourage you all to do that as well. If you have a friend or someone you know who you think would enjoy watching this video, parent of a special needs scout would apply to that, or a leader of a troop with kids, one or more kids with special abilities. Feel free to tag them in the comments. Feel free to ask questions. We've got Brent here for about the next 26 minutes. We're going to talk about different kind of issues. Brent, we're going to get into it in just a second, but I do want to ask you one more question. When we talk about a scout with special needs, obviously autism would fall under that. Can you give me other kind of examples of the scouts that you guys provide support for?
The interesting part is 8% of our scouts tend to have hidden disabilities, which means that they have something. They might have a learning disability. They could have deaf, of course, which would be about 4 or 5% of scouts actually have a visible disability. But it goes into everything from just mild ADHD up to where you can, like you said, Down syndrome. It's a huge area of people. That's part of the issue, is you just don't have one answer because of the variety of kids that we serve with special needs.
Yes. And one of the main purposes of the show today is to point you guys toward resources that the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee has made available. I think it's safe to say certainly any scout leader, these resources would be valuable to them. They'd also be valuable. Hey, if you're a parent of a child that has special needs, you're going to want to know kind of what Scouts BSA has to offer you. The first place we want to point folks towards is the Guide to Advancement. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brent. It's the Guide to Advancement is hefty. It's a pretty good sized document, but it's section 10.2.2.0 that specifically deals with advancement in Scouts BSA for scouts with special needs. Can you tell us about this document, Brent, and what's in there?
So, that is the official. It is the official. How do we do stuff if we have a scout that we need to do something additional for? So I will say the big thing that we need to talk about when we look at that Guide to Advancement is accommodation versus modification. So accommodations would be something as simple as a scout that is deaf might speak with sign language or through a machine, or you could have someone who was nonverbal, but they spoke through a machine. Perfect example, I think, is Hawkins, the physicist, who would speak and give speeches. So when it says they have to speak, well, or give a speech, well, they can still do that. That's a accommodation of their, their disability. A modification would be they can't physically do something. So maybe the big one we always get as a committee is they can't physically pass a swim test. So now we need to modify the rank requirement for second class and first class. And so then you have to go through a whole process, which is described in the Guide to Advancement, basically going through with the parents, the unit leaders, and your council advancement committee, where they actually say, okay, instead of doing this, the child can't jump in water over their head because of they have some type of phobia or something with their and the doctor says, yes, they will not do that. So now we take and they modify the requirement. So that is also allowed in scouting. It's just a process. So
right.
The big thing is they can do without, you don't have to get any permission to do accommodations. Accommodations are what you do to, you take extra time or whatever. That's accommodation, but the modifications you do. So that's the biggest question we get as a committee.
And I want to talk about that a little bit more, but I've got a few comments that I want to read. DJ is coming up to us from Irving. He's right down the road from our BSA headquarters. Thank you, DJ. Stop by, say hi sometime. Stephanie says that she's the co-master of a group in Wellington, Florida, and their PAC meeting theme for September is disability awareness. Very, very cool, Stephanie. An excellent question from Chrislyn. Chrislyn says her child has autism. He's 11 years old. He's in the 4th grade. He's being homeschooled. I was wondering if he could still join Scouts. The answer, Chrislyn, is yes. We would love to have your child join Scouts. Now, as far as which program is right for them, that's something you can work out with your local Scout officials. Don't you think, Brent, beascout.org is Chrislyn's best resource? Or maybe find your local council, reach out to them to find out what resources are available in your area?
Yes, or they can actually send an email to the special needs chair at scouting.org, and I have a membership group. Part of our committee, that's what they do. They reach out to the champions of different councils. So if they tell us where they're located specifically, we will reach out and say, hey, we have a scout in this area that would love to join scouting. What do you have that would help them work? Because it's a great social aspect for these kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Chrislyn, if your child is being homeschooled, I think scouting would be a great fit for them. So Brent was kind enough to share that email address. We'll be showing that a few more times. He says he doesn't mind you guys reaching out to him, so we're going to take him up on that. It's specialneedschair@gmail.org. Is that right, Brent?
Scouting.org.
Scouting.org. My mistake. Specialneedschair@scouting.org. Chrislyn, you can also reach out to your local council. If you Google local BSA local council finder and put in your zip code, that would give you that information. Behind the scenes, Gina, who is doing a great job so far today, has posted some links to the Guide to Advancement in the comment section of every page where this video is being posted. Please check that out. Stephanie has a great question. And Stephanie, we're going to get to that question in just a little bit. What training do you recommend for DIN leaders to help them for Scouts with disabilities? Believe it or not, Stephanie, that is on our list of things to talk about. Thank you for asking that wonderful question. If anybody else has any questions, please feel free to chime in. I want to just real quick clarify something that you mentioned, Brent. I just want to make sure I understand the difference between modifying a requirement and making an accommodation. Any Scout leader can make an accommodation for a child who communicating is probably one of the most common ones, right? If they can't speak or has trouble speaking or something like that, they're allowed to fulfill that requirement by, say, writing instead of speaking or something like that. Would that
another common one is they're in a wheelchair, so if they have to take a hike, their hike would be in a wheelchair. So that's how they walk. So, I mean, that's an easy accommodation that you're saying, okay, when it says it, it doesn't say hiking through the woods, it says take a hike. So hike might have to be on a nice paved path, but that's kind of a common one.
And that's different from a modification, which is when you're changing some aspect of the program. That is possible, but that's not something that an individual Scout leader can just make the decision to do, right? They need to kind of seek out permission for that.
Yes, and that's for ranks. For merit badges, then you cannot modify a merit badge. So then they can do alternative. So there's another process that's described again in that Guide to Advancement that goes through how do you choose an alternative. You also go through your council's advancement committee who helped choose that. So our committee would love to help councils that have questions on that though also. So we have people that work on that all the time.
We have a question from David, who's watching on our YouTube channel. David asks, how often does your committee meet, and how does one join your committee?
So we meet bi-monthly. We have parts of our committee then meet the other part. So we have little subcommittee parts that deal with different aspects, programs, membership. So they meet the other months. And so to join the committee, it's a kind of the process that we only have 25 members throughout the nation. So we're recommended by different members of the councils, but we also look at who are specialists in different areas of the program. So it's a kind of a different process for different people.
Gotcha. Peggy comments that she is not only a scout leader and a committee chair, but she's also a volunteer who deals with Special Olympics in North Carolina. Every scout is important and welcomed. They should always be. Peggy, you said it better than I could. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that very much. DJ says he had a young man who was MR and blind in one eye. I worked diligently with our committee. He finally attained Eagle at the age of 25 years. Yes, that is right. That is a possible thing to do. Speaking of accommodating, there are age extensions that are available for scouts with special needs. I don't know if that was on our list of things to talk about, Brent, but is that all spelled out in that guide to advancement?
That's all in the same spot. And it talks about, okay, so a scout needs that additional time. So if they just need 6 months, they can get an extension. But if it's a lifetime issue that they need more time to keep working as a youth, then they can register for beyond the age of 18 as a youth. Now, the only challenge I will tell you is once you register that way, that's how you're registered. So if you're 40 years old, you're still registered as a youth. So that's something that a parent and guardian needs to look at. Should their scout be still registered as a youth as a 60-year-old? That they have to make that decision themselves.
Gotcha. Brent, there's a resource that the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee has made available called the Inclusion Toolbox. Brent, can you tell us what that is?
So it's something our committee has been working on. So it's online, so you can view it and see the changes. So it's updated regularly, but it actually goes through different scenarios for. We have it scheduled for unit leaders. Part of it's for summer camp staff. And how do you help incorporate these scouts so they're included in your programs in a way that lets you as a unit leader have a resource to find different, if you have a swimming one, I can tell you I deal with that a lot. Well, then we talk about some swimming things that you might be able to do with the summer camp so that you can work with your scout with special needs. But it also has joining conferences. So it's a great resource put out by the National Special Needs Committee. It's been approved, gone through all the legal. So everything that we put in there is the part of the scouting, how we can help units with kids that have special needs.
So behind the scenes, Gina has once again, she's doing an A+ job, by the way. She's posted a link to that inclusion toolbox in the chats. Please check that out if you're interested. We've got a troop watching from Germany, Brent. Our scouts with disabilities are an enrichment to the troop. They just posted a link to their picture. Very, very cool. Appreciate that very much. Thank you for joining us, guys. We hope you find this video helpful, and thank you for serving children with special needs. One thing that maybe a lot of folks don't realize, Brent, is that, we talk a lot about high adventure opportunities for our scouting population, right? For older scouts, in particular, the 4 national high adventure bases. What kind of opportunities like that are available for scouts with special needs?
So all of our high adventure bases will welcome a unit that comes with a scout with special needs. So if they can come with just their unit, that all 4 of our high adventure bases would be happy to do stuff and accommodate them. But we do have additional weeks that we have at Philmont and Sea Base that we actually have the supported. I will tell you, I can give you the expect. We have the ZIA Experience, which is an adaptive Philmont adventure for scouts with special needs and disabilities. That is June 23rd through 29th of 2024, where that is a family adventure camp that they come out, and we have the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee that joins and supports the Philmont staff, and we put on cope. They do cope and climbing, they do shooting sports, they do horses, they do hiking. And so we go out and do different adventures with them at Philmont. This year, for the first time, or next year for the first time, we will also be doing a trek. So we will do a 5-day trek, or 6-day, 5-night, 6-day trek from. It will also be through the training center, but it will be June 30th through July 6th. And we will go on, and they will actually trek between different base camps. So we've already walked that with the Philmont crew, and the hikes aren't, they're not the hardest hikes on the ranch, but they are actually treks of the ranch. So we're hiking between different areas, and we're going to have our committee out there helping to carry some of the extra gear so that these scouts can go have a full trek. They will have to have a leader with them, though, that goes on those treks. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Philmont, really kind of considered the pinnacle of scouting, right? For every young person in the program, hard pressed to find a better scouting experience than Philmont. If you're thinking that you're a child, or there's a scout in your troop with some special needs, and you think maybe Philmont's not for you, encourage you to at least look into this. Think about it. As Brent said, even if you don't, maybe you could go at a regular time with your regular scout troop to whenever they're going to Philmont. If maybe that doesn't quite work for you, the ZIA experience is an opportunity. Those specific dates are dates when we know there will be folks there trained to help out. At the end of June, we're talking about next summer, June 2024. And then also the first week of July, as Brent said, there's a trek, an actual Philmont trek that kids can go on with some help from members of Brent's committee. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, there's also a similar opportunity at Florida Sea Base.
Yes. So we are doing adaptive Keys adventure. So it's the same, Keys adventure that you would have if you went down to the sea base. It is November, as you can see the dates, November 24th through 30th. So it's during Thanksgiving week, but that's when it all worked out. But we can accommodate a group to come. It is not a family adventure. So this would be actually, they need to be registered scout, but you can bring parents or guardians. And we'll have a venture where they go fishing. They can go, depending on if the swimming levels, they can do some snorkeling. If not, we'll have different events though that they can do, just like a Keys adventure. So we'll visit the Britton Center. We'll go and we'll fish. We'll have kayaks and paddle boards available. We're going to do a flat bottom boat that they can go and see they can see the ocean life beneath them on a glass bottom boat. So it's just a different adventure that we want scouts to have that opportunity also, because Sea Base is also a great opportunity for many of our scouts that, it's that lifetime pinnacle adventure. So
Philmont and Sea Base are right off the bat are opportunities for you guys to attend with a child with special needs and have built-in extra support from the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee kind of. Very, very cool. I want to real quick, David asked, is there any online training coming up? Maybe that's a great segue into training opportunities that are available. Some of them are in person, some of them are online. Brent, can you tell us about that a little bit?
So at the same time that we're doing the XIA experience, we also are doing a PTC adaptive special needs training at the same time, June 23rd through 29th again in 2024, which will be in person. So it is adapting it's geared towards council or district leaders that are putting on programs. And we talk about how you can make your events inclusive for our scouts with special needs. We do in-person workshops. So those are biannual. So the next one is October. I didn't write this down. I have to look on my calendar. October 21st. It's in San Francisco. So we do those, and those deal with subjects that need to be in person. And then we do national Zoom roundtables quarterly. So we do that where we go into different subjects. Some of them are training, but that lets us have those touch points where we can work with the community that wants answers. So we're there, we can answer questions. We'll go different subjects throughout the year, but we do those quarterly. So
yeah, so if you're interested in online training, those Zoom roundtables is probably a good bet for you. I'm just guessing probably that same website we mentioned before, There's information on there, scouting.org/resources/disabilities awareness. Yes, there you go. Thank you, Gina, very much. Everything that we're talking about is basically linked to that site. So that is a great starting point. There's also a national newsletter that you guys produce, I think, right, Brent?
Yes, it's Able Scout, and we put that out also quarterly. So it covers different things. It will be posted. It is posted on that landing page, which is part of the scouting.org landing page. So that's our landing page of the website for the scouts. And so we post that there, and it covers different items in there. We also have a link on that to a nationally approved website that kind of gets that has the meat of all those through that landing page. So that's the link is also on there. So we have that's also went through our national liability committee and the law, and they said yes, that is how we can give out information. So.
And Stephanie's asking about the link for the Zoom meetings. That would be available on that page. Is that correct?
The link is if you send the email to that special needs chair at scouting.org, I actually put it to our committee and we send you out. We have someone that takes all those people and say, please let me, join the stuff. They send that out for invitation. So.
Gotcha. DJ comments, we had a scout with leg braces that completed Northern Tier with the crew. They all worked together to make sure he could get to shore safely during portaging. Very, very cool, GJ. Love to hear stories about that. That kind of brings to mind another question, Brent. This was not on our list of things to talk about, but I can't think of someone who's more qualified to talk about this than you. There are some advantages in some situations to having a scout with certain special needs or disabilities go through the scouting process in their years with a troop full of able-bodied scouts, right? Am I correct on that?
Most scouts are that way. Very few are in specialized unit. Most, when you're talking about 10 or 12% of your scouts are special needs, most of them are in units, just traditional units, and it's just the unit. That's why it's so important that all our unit leaders know where to find this information, because the scout that just joined tomorrow, they might not tell you that they have a special need. But a great place if you ever have questions on how do I do this as a unit leader. A lot of times you can look at this. If they're in school, they'll have an individual advancement plan, education plan, IEP. And so their IEP kind of tells you, hey, this is the way they deal with this at school. So maybe as a unit, we can follow some of those same things on how do we help this scout that just joined our troop. So
yep, there are a few troops that we've been made aware of over the years that consist of entirely of scouts with special needs, but that's the exception rather than the rule. And I think that in those situations, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, we're usually talking about scouts who and you mentioned this earlier, they could still be registered as youth into their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or whatever, right? And continue participating in the program as a youth. That's a decision that's made by those families with those scouts, with that scout leader, right? That's what works best for them. Is that an accurate way to sum that up?
Yes. And so a lot of times there'll be maybe a group home or they're a community that they stay together, and they, sometimes they start as a youth that are actually 14 years old and they stay in scouting and they stay as a unit together. But most scouts are just in a traditional unit, and they're just part, like as DJ said, they had a scout with them with leg braces, and they just don't, as a unit, they did everything together. So that's the most traditional way that we see scouts.
And that just strikes me as so beneficial for all the kids, right? How wonderful is it to have scouts who are, the whole reason we have the disabilities awareness program, the merit badge and everything else, is to make kids aware that there are people out there with abilities different from their own. What a wonderful opportunity to have a child in your scout troop with different abilities like that you can get to know, become friends with. I would imagine both sides learn something, right?
Yes. And a lot of times I always say that the scouts, both sides of the scouts gain so much from working together. It's amazing that they find out, yay, sometimes it's because everything's not linear. Linear. You can change ways that it can still do the same thing, but not just follow just one path, which is great because it's part of our inclusion of scouting. We include these kids, and just makes all these kids have a better better understanding of how the life will be going forward.
Excellent, excellent. A good comment from Patricia. She says that her son had a disability, but when he went through the program and became an Eagle Scout, you know, earning the rank of Eagle is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. We'd all be Eagle Scouts, right? It certainly requires work, but the program is designed so that any child of any ability can do it if they're willing to put in the work. Brent, do you have any thoughts on a child with special need who wants to be an Eagle Scout? What do we say to those folks?
Well, I mean, it's available to them. I mean, that's like every scout. Eagle's not an easy thing to get, but it's a challenge. And sometimes your challenge might be a little different than others, but every scout can earn Eagle as long as, they want, as you said, they want to put in the work. But the other thing that scouting is, it's a great place for kids to just learn and have fun. So that's another thing. Even if they don't become an Eagle Scout, I think it's so great that we have a program where kids learn how to be leaders and to, be the servant leader. So even if they don't make that final thing and become that Eagle Scout, at least they, that the program can enrich their lives so greatly. So
yeah, totally. There's still tons of value in the program, no matter what rank you get to, right? No matter how many merit badges you actually earn, there's tons of value in just being a part of the program, being around other scouts, going outdoors, doing all the things that scouts do. Stephanie asks, will this be able to be viewed later? Stephanie, yes, this video will be able to be viewed later. Whatever Facebook page you're watching it on right now, just a few minutes after we're done, which is coming up here in just another minute or two, it will appear on that Facebook page as a video. You can continue to tag friends, send it to friends, send them the link, let them watch it. Brent, we've got just another minute or so. Are there any other thoughts? I think we've addressed all the talking points we had. Any other closing thoughts before we let you go on your committee, on how the BSA serves scouts with special needs, on any other topic related?
Just make sure that you find that special needs chair at skynet.org. And if any questions that any of you have as unit leaders, please send it to us, because our committee is excited when we get to help a scout and a leader find a solution for some of these challenges that they don't realize that there are solutions to. So it's, like we just talked about, scouting is for everyone. So I think that's the greatest thing that we get to do as a committee. We get to remind sometimes people that, hey, scouting is for everyone. This is how you can do it. So,
yep. So we had a couple of folks comment that they have children with special needs. That email address, a great place to contact. I agree with Brent. I think your child would benefit, as all children do, from joining scouting. What a great discussion. We've had a lot of good comments. Brent, I can't say it enough. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Aaron, and thank you guys for what you do to, get that word out there, because, sometimes that's the hardest part, is people knowing that we're here to help them. So,
well, awesome. We couldn't do it without you guys. Thanks for joining us. Great job by Gina behind the scenes to run the show. We appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Those very kind comments are continuing to come in. We appreciate it. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon. We'll see you next time on Troop Talk Live. Thanks, Brent, and bye, everybody.
Thank you.